about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So one of the biggest issues plaguing our healthcare system right now is you cannot get an appointment with a medical provider for months. We're turning into Canada, or we're turning into socialized medicine. It used to not be like that. My office was open 6 days a week. If I could have opened on Sundays, I would have. I'm just a workaholic. I was there anyway. Answering, getting labs and making sure referrals were done. So I was in the office on Sunday anyway, but I didn't want staff to feel like they had to come in and work. So we were actually closed, but we were open on Saturdays for the morning and things like that because I wanted to make sure if a patient needed to see me, they could get in the next day or in 2 days. We rarely had longer than a 2 or 3 day wait. And it's because I figured out a way to get them in, or I would just stay longer, or yeah. And it was exhausting. I didn't see my kids a lot, but any of my patients knew if they needed to see me, they could get to me. And then if they had to see a specialist, I would call the specialist and say, look, I got to get this person in. And oftentimes they would say, bring them today or tomorrow. It was nice. Before Obamacare, it was really nice. Then after Obamacare, things started to change a little bit. It was a little harder. People had higher deductibles. And then doctors were quitting. Can I have this patient see you? I'm retiring. This is not worth it anymore. Well, what about your partner? Well, you could ask him, have you met them yet? Well, but I work with you. And so it started to change. And one of the reasons why direct primary care and concierge medicine grew is because many of these doctors that do concierge or direct primary care, in order for them to get paid more by you, where you're paying a premium to see them, patients want something out of it. And what they want is to be able to have access to a specialist sooner than the way it is now. But it used to not be that way. Blame the Affordable Care Act. I'm grateful that pre-existing conditions are covered. I am grateful that physicals are covered. But what it did to the medical landscape, and everybody lost their doctor. The average person does not still have their same doctor. So now, here you are. Child hurts their ankle. You have a skin lesion that seems to be growing. And you've been grateful that you have access to telemedicine. And you have been calling doctors for your medicine refills, for your eye drops. And many of you have not seen a doctor since 2020. The problem is your telemedicine doctor sees that skin lesion saying this could be cancer. You need to go and get this biopsy. Go see your doctor. And you say, I don't have one. Why don't you? I've been only using telemedicine. You need an MRI. Your knee keeps swelling. There's something going on with the cartilage. You might need surgery or an injection. Have your doctor refer you to an orthopedist. I'm a doctor. And when you try to get in with the orthopedist, it could be months. So what do you do? What do you do if you need medical care and in-person medical care? Telemedicine is fantastic in terms of answering questions, and sometimes telemedicine can even do some referrals for you. But what if they can't? And you really need to get in and get seen. Well, one option is urgent care, which is expensive. Another option is ER. But, one option you could do, and I hate to bring this up, but sometimes it works, is when you do call the orthopedist or the dermatologist, okay, ask what their cash price is, or the MRI place, etc. What is their cash price? And you might notice that you get seen sooner if you pay cash. Now, I don't want you to have to pay cash. You're already spending thousands and thousands of dollars on your insurance. But we're turning into Canada. We're turning into socialized medicine. And now the people who are able to get the tests are the ones that are paying up front for it. And patients are telling me the only way they were able to get sped up in line is they said they weren't going to use insurance, that they were going to pay up front cash for that test. Or they were going to pay cash to see that medical provider. And they got in. Now, I'm not saying that's ideal. I don't want that to be our system, but that's the way it is in Canada, and that's the way it's turning here. When I was seeing people for free, day after day after day, I still saw you. But we had trouble paying the bills. So you wonder why so many doctors have quit or gone to corporate. And these doctors that have gone to corporate, even though they might be incentivized by numbers of people seen, if 200 people are calling a week saying, I want to get in this week, the answer is going to be no, 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 200 times. We have no room. There's no incentive. They're already booked to the gill because so many doctors have left. People have this crappy insurance. They're undernourished. They're undertreated. They're not healthy because they haven't been able to get taken care of. And there's just no time for everybody to get seen. So before you're in that position, if let's say you feel good today is the best day for you to go and sign up with a primary care doctor or medical provider. Do not wait till you're sick. Go and find a primary care provider. You should be having a physical. And by the way, for many of you going, oh, I can't afford to go and see a doctor when I'm healthy. Obamacare is supposed to technically pay for physicals. So schedule something. If the next available isn't till June 10th, let's say, grab that June 10th appointment. You got nothing to lose. Hopefully you're not sick. But what you need to do when you do see them is go, look, what if I have a problem? What's the easiest way to see you? How do I establish myself with you so I'm not running around going from urgent care to ER? And you might also have to, ascribe to the fact that you might have to actually pay cash for some things. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell our listeners who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me join you to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now and find out how much your case is potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. If you think you deserve compensation, call now to find out how much you qualify for. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Hotshot Secret Stiction Eliminator.
Stiction, that sticky friction, undermines the performance of diesel engines. Third-party ASTM testing verifies that Stiction Eliminator removes 2 times as much stiction than any alternative on the retail shelf. Stiction Eliminator is formulated to be left in the engine oil. It works as you drive.
Available at truck stops, Tractor Supply, O'Reilly's Auto Parts, and online at HotShotSecret.com. Hotshot Secret. Powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Now, don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to turning in. Yeah, don't go to sleep yet. Tuning in. Don't forget to follow us on X or Twitter at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So I was really, really hoping that SpaceX could launch Crew 10 from Kennedy Space Center to go and get those stranded members that are on the International Space Station, but it had to get scrubbed. So at the last minute, we were told that NASA's SpaceX Crew 10 had to scrub yesterday's launch attempt. But they are going to try again on March 14th, or Pi Day. They said a hydraulic ground issue at Launch Pad 39A sparked this scrub of Crew 10 Falcon 9, which was scheduled to lift off from NASA's Kennedy Space Center yesterday at about 7:48 p.m. Eastern. Officials announced another try for tomorrow. It would happen at about 7:08 p.m. Eastern, or roughly 4 p.m. Pacific. March 14th is Pi Day because it's, 314 or 3.14 and all the numbers with pi. I'm glad they said they were going to try it again the next day. And I'm like, there's some bad weather coming in, and are we sure they're ready? I want them to be ready. I don't want them to go out there to get Butch Wilmer and Suni Williams without all I's dotted and T's crossed and everything from a safety measure standpoint. But it is frustrating because it looked like the crew members were all ready to go. So as of now, Friday, they're going to aboard the SpaceX Dragon capsule, and the crew members will hopefully go to International Space Station, do the pass off. I guess there has to be a little bit of a transition between who's going to be manning the ISS and then bringing Suni Williams and Butch Wilmer home. But, wow, this is, they shouldn't have been, stranded for this long. They were supposed to be back this summer, and look how long it's taken. And Elon Musk said Biden interfered with other options that he had suggested. And so here we are in March, finally, hopefully being able to bring them back. They're going to be leaving, from what I understand, by Cape Canaveral. It's an hour east of Orlando. You really need to check it out. It really, really is cool. Near NASA's Kennedy Space Center. We'll keep you posted if there is any change, but you should be able to, if you are in the area, see it. Launch time, I believe, is 7:08 Eastern Standard or Eastern Daylight Time. So it's EDT instead of EST. Yeah, I still have a bone to pick with this whole daylight saving time, standard time. I can't stand the fact that when I wake up, it's still dark. I like waking up and it being light. I like standard time. I feel better. Doctors prefer standard time, but you know what? I'll take what I could get. Just stop the time change. Let us naturally get used to the different variances. You don't have to be abruptly changing an hour here and an hour there twice a year. It's stupid. But it's not Eastern Standard Time anymore. It's Eastern Daylight Time. The trajectory is northeast. There might even be some sonic booms. And so hopefully you guys will be able to see it. I'm just hoping they could get the crew back and safely as soon as possible. And I'm grateful to Elon Musk and SpaceX for stepping this up. Now, also in the news is how we are closer and closer to a ceasefire, which is the start of a path towards peace as it pertains to the Russia-Ukraine war. But it looks a little complicated. So we're being told by Daily Mail that President Vladimir Putin said that Russia did back the U.S. proposal for a Ukraine ceasefire, but had, quote, serious questions that he needed to discuss with the United States, possibly directly with President Donald Trump. He said he is in favor of the proposal of a 30-day ceasefire, but that there are nuances, and that he had serious questions about how that would work. He said, I think we need to talk to our American colleagues, maybe have a phone call with President Trump and discuss this with them. He said he noted the need to develop a mechanism to control possible breaches of the truce. Another issue, he said, is whether Ukraine could use that 30-day ceasefire to continue mobilization and rearmament. As we've seen with the Middle East, oftentimes ceasefires allow there to be a, build up of rearmament, and those things can unfortunately really work against one side versus another. Having Trump behind this, I feel confident we are going to eventually see peace because Ukraine can't do much without the U.S. So for Ukraine to violate the ceasefire agreement, already Vladimir Zelensky knows that if you mess with Trump, Trump's like, see ya. So I think Ukraine will hold their end of the deal up. But there is, I guess, a little bit of issue. There's a little bit of geography going on that can be an issue. And so Putin claims that he will determine the next steps on the ceasefire based on the success of the Kursk campaign. He said Ukrainian soldiers tried to leave in large groups, but this is now impossible. If a physical blockade occurs in the coming days, then no one will be able to leave at all. There will only be two options: surrender or die. Now, that doesn't sound like we're closer to peace. That sounds like Ukrainian soldiers are getting stuck. They're going to be forced to do or die because so that did not sound promising. Putin noted that while it appeared that the U.S. persuaded Ukraine to accept a ceasefire, Ukraine is interested in that because of the battlefield situation, noting that Ukrainian troops that launched an incursion into Russia's Kursk region would be fully blocked in the coming days. In these conditions, I believe it would be good for the Ukrainian side to secure a ceasefire for at least 30 days. So, in terms of the Ukrainian troops in Kursk, will all those who are there come out without a fight? So things are still very, very testy. I mean, the fact that Ukraine has been able to move into this region, and Ukraine, with the help of America, really held their own. We never thought it would last this long, but we did predict it could last this long if we didn't figure out an end to this as quickly as possible, and a way where we don't have to keep dumping money, billions upon billions of dollars into this. And for every day this war goes on, somebody dies. As Marco Rubio said, who I'm a huge fan of. He said, people are dying today. They're going to die tonight. If we don't get the ceasefire, they're going to die tomorrow. And I'm on the side of nobody else dying. I don't think this war is going anywhere. I don't think Ukraine is going to be able to take over Russia. And I don't think Russia, without the help of America, without America leaving Ukraine, is going to take over Ukraine. So what are we doing this for? And I understand Putin wants extra land, he wants extra territory, but America is sick of it. And we don't want any more incursions. We want Russia getting the hell out of Ukraine. We want Ukraine being able to build back up. And we also want to have a binding and a treaty and a partnership with Ukraine that isn't just, us being the sugar daddy, where we're actually, we could benefit from that relationship as well. And I don't think Trump's wrong with that. I know everybody was like, oh, you're mean, you're exploiting them. Actually, he's not. If Ukraine has value and the U.S. is required, no questions asked, to just keep dumping money, why can't the U.S. be allowed to share in that value? Then it also makes the argument to help Ukraine a little bit more. The only reason why people are even entertaining this idea of Trump and Greenland is because Greenland has a lot to offer. If we help Greenland out, it might be a good deal for them. If Greenland doesn't need us, then it's not. They say Putin Foreign Affairs advisor said Putin planned to meet with Trump's special envoy later today, Steve Witkoff. The Russian Defense Ministry's claim that it recaptured the town of Sudza, a Ukrainian operational hub in Kursk, came hours after Putin visited his commanders in Kursk. The claim could not be verified, and Ukrainian officials made no immediate comment. So this is still a very evolving. We might only get to see a clip here or there, but the war is ongoing. So I hope it ends. I love the fact that we are having now Trump involved instead of Biden, because I don't know where Biden was sleeping and taking a nap and sucking his thumb. I just don't know what the hell was going on with that. And this is definitely putting people on edge, interfering with grain and fuel and all sorts of other things. And, the EU, yes, they were helping Ukraine, but not to the degree that we were. And U.S., Trump say, look, then fine, go to Europe, let them help you more. Once Europe has more skin in the game, they might be also more willing to bring on peace. World peace something that's very beneficial. I know it's not always going to be there. There's always going to be some terrorist group or somebody or some dictator or somebody who's going to want to take advantage of scenarios, or like what we saw with the Hamas attack. There's always going to be some disgusting evil that veers its head and decides to kill, rape, murder, behead babies. But if we could at least show that a presence and a strong arm saying, look, don't mess with us. This ends now. I think it benefits the whole world. 1-877 Doc Daliah. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Lisa Wolf here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you. And be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. All right. This next segment is adults only. All right. So just be prepared. Big topic and a big issue that many families have is grandpa is very horny. And the older grandpa gets, the worse his behavior is. He says things. He grabs things. He's acting inappropriate. Grandpa's horniness is going to get us all in trouble. So let's talk about that. And it happens. It happens. I understand a lot of movies make jokes about it, but if you are a family with young kids, now I get it. I've seen this. There are families where there's always somebody who grabs somebody's butt, and there's always that has to stop. Okay? And most of you might already have kind of a plan for that, but there's somebody in my husband's family that always likes to grab asses. I'm like, really? It's ridiculous. So it happens. I get it. It happens. And I'm sure in my family there is. It just, they wouldn't even dare grab mine. But when you do have an older individual, a senior, that might start having dementia or might be on certain medications, they could become more and more sexualized. They also can lose that filter. So whereas when you're younger or middle age, you know not to look at somebody going, wow, your pelvis looks great. Or you know not to do that. That's not allowed in society. Not when somebody is starting to age and lose their cognition and lose their memory or lose their cognitive abilities. They will just talk about your boobies or talk about somebody's pelvis or talk about their groin and not stop. They might even act on that. And so when people age, they may go back to their more primitive sort of emotions. And even though in society, we've learned how to wear ties and sit up straight and eat with silverware, you're going to see older individuals regress and become more animalistic. They might want to just eat with their fingers. I like eating with my hands. Maybe it's a cultural thing or whatever. Just I'm very, very comfortable eating with my fingers. I like drinking my soup, holding the bowl. Just something that, I don't know, maybe my father taught me. I don't know. I'm just very comfortable with that. But I say that because before they get hypersexualized, you might start to see them do some of these other things that are a little bit easier to alert you that something might be coming around the bend. So if all of a sudden grandma or grandpa aren't using silver anymore and they're like, you know what, to heck with that, I'm just going to eat with my fingers. Now, they might be practical. They might be like, to hell with this whole society thing. We're not having a spot of tea. It isn't hot tea. I should be able to eat any way I like. You know, if they're just like, to heck with it, I want to eat with my fingers, that's one thing. But if you're noticing they're struggling with silverware and they want to now just start to, or they'll grab food like a baby would or an animal would, that's a sign that they're already starting to regress. If they are not, let's say, using a bathroom, you might notice grandpa pee on the tree. Like, what are you doing? We need to go to a bathroom. He's like, I gotta go. You're like, but you're just, that could be another sign. But the hypersexualization can happen with dementia, multiple different types, whether it's Alzheimer's, etc. It could also happen when you have an individual who is on a dopamine agonist. So let's say you have a family member with Parkinson's or Parkinsonian-like neurodegeneration. The medical provider, they might give them a medication that increases their dopamine. Well, that can also make them hypersexualized. Now, where things go sour is if they lose sight that granddaughter is related to them and starts acting inappropriately, or grandson, or the nurse, or the help that's coming in to help them, and they might act inappropriate. And I've seen this with patients all the time. I remember we were doing part of our training in a nursing home, and the nurses had said that this one gentleman was catatonic, not necessarily in a coma, but he just wouldn't move, he just wouldn't talk. And so, I'm leaning over to check his heart and lungs. He grabs something, looks at me, looks completely lucid, and then completely goes back and pretends. And I'm like, really? Catatonic mind? Really? So, sometimes they fake it. And they're still about their wits. They have their wits about them. But when you have somebody that is sexually assaulting, it's assault still. And nurses don't need to put up with that. Healthcare workers, and also a thing that has to be said as well, is if a healthcare provider does not want to be assaulted, which they have every right to not be, they're going to approach that family member differently. I mean, God forbid something goes wrong, you want all hands on deck. But if they feel they're going to be getting grabbed, they might be that hesitancy. And so us in the healthcare world, we understand that these things can happen. We understand that it might not be that they want to be a sexual aggressor, that they can't control it, but we still don't want to be touched. And I mean, I've been grabbed and touched. I don't like it at all, but, by a patient. But, I'm not going to not take care of them. If they need care, they're going to get care. But these individuals who are hypersexualized end up becoming very, very isolated. Families are like, keep the grandkids away from them. Keep the kids. So the first thing you need to do is have an honest conversation with the family. And if your kids are of an appropriate age, discuss that with them. And say, look, grandpa or grandma are going to start saying things that might not necessarily be the right thing to say. You're going to start to notice changes. And the reason why this is an important conversation is, my husband had told me that he was really hurt because his grandmother had snapped at him and said something really, that he thought was mean. And I'm like, oh, well, yeah, she probably has dementia or she's probably aging. And he's like, no, I think she meant it. I go, I don't. Did she ever talk to you like that before? They lose their filter. And once he realized, he's like, I'm glad you told me, because I was kind of upset. I was kind of shocked. Yeah. A lot of people become isolated because they become grumpy old men or grumpy, mean women. And we lose that. We don't stop to think, oh, wow, this might mar a family member. That family member might dislike me. We don't think about that because we're in pain or we're being impulsive. So one is there needs to be that conversation with the family saying, look, you might I remember my grandfather yelling at me, and he was mean. He would be hitting me with his cane. Now I realize he had CTE from all his football days, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, but I didn't like the man. Now I understand him and I appreciate him, but all I remember him is yelling at me and hitting. So you need to protect the kids. One, so they don't hate that family member, and two, they aren't a victim of assault. But you also need to let them know why there's going to be that separation and teach them ways where they can protect themselves. If grandpa needs you to come over there to give him something and you know that he is going to be in that grabby possible mood, then, figure out how somebody else could be the one to do it. Make sure there's some space. Talk to their medical provider about their medications if their medications are enhancing that. There's also medications that can temper that. Make sure you go with them to the medical provider about some of their behavior so that it could be tempered so that they aren't grabbing and getting themselves arrested or abandoned because nobody wants to take care of them. But a horny grandpa or horny grandma is not all fun and games. And it could cause a lot of distress. And I see parents all the time going, oh my gosh, I can't believe they said that. I can't believe they did that. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. And a lot of people aren't medically savvy, so they don't understand. There was a movie star or a TV show star who said she was able to pose for a picture with George H.W. Bush and he grabbed her butt. It's a shame because that made the news, and we know that George H.W. Bush was starting to lose it at the end. And, we don't want them doing that, and we don't want their reputation marred. So there are things that could be done, but you got to get their doctor involved. 1-877-Daliah.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-910-7500. That's 800-910-7500. Call now to find out how much your case could be worth.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOC-DALI. So a lot of things have been failing. And one thing that I love about this presidency is that whatever sucked, that we just assumed, well, it's government. Well, when the government runs something, it stinks. It blows. I think we're done with that sort of stereotype. And if something is not doing their job, and if something does stink, all right, why aren't we fixing it? I mean, we have the best military in the world. We have some of the best doctors in the world. We have some of the best education institutions in the world, but we're not acting like it. When we have these pro-Hamas protests on Ivy League, really? When we have kids failing and not proficient in basic reading and math, when we have students that are questioning their gender and schools are not bringing their parents involved, saying, well, the kid could be suicidal. If the parents find out about it, the kid could commit suicide. Whereas if you have a suicidal child, who's watching them at night and on the weekends and the summer? Of course you get the parents involved if you think the child is suicidal. I mean, this is a mess. This is an absolute mess. When you see some of the projects and things taught to kids as it pertains to sex toys and erotica and all that's what are our priorities? When you see homeless veterans not having jobs, places to live, proper medical care, come on. And so, as I've said before, you got to cut to cure. And if Trump is going to be cleaning up the waste, the fraud, the abuse with Doge, if he's going to be laying people off, sometimes the only way to cure is to cut. And I know that's not very popular with a lot of people, but that's how we have to do things in medicine. If you have a necrotic gallbladder, if you have an appendix about to burst, you can't just be like, oh, well, let's just pray and hope and everything. No, I'm going to still pray, but I got to go in there and cut that sucker out. So Trump is now being sued by 20 states to halt the dismantling of the Department of Education. And we knew that there were going to be some legal challenges. A group of Democratic state attorneys have filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration. And even though Trump needs Congress to dismantle it, what he's done is he's fired at least half. Well, I don't want to say he's fired. He let go, from what we understand, 66 individuals, but he laid off, I think, 1,300. And then there were, I think, 500 or 600 who took that deal where you resigned and you were able to get paid all the way through to September. Well, attorney generals from 20 states and the District of Columbia filed their legal challenge in response to this, saying the layoffs are an effective dismantling of the department. They say the department's authority to administer reductions in force does not override Congress's exclusive authority to abolish executive agencies or to discontinue their functions. And this is something that's going to be in the history books. Can a president lay people off? Now, as it pertains to the Department of Defense, there are laws. There are protections against the against firing somebody that could possibly affect our national security. And the reason why those checks and balances are in place is they didn't want somebody foreign or somebody who's a traitor to rise to power and then figure out how to completely dissolve the military and then let that other foreign power come in and take over our country. So there's these checks and balances of who gets to fire our military and who gets to, and I have to admit, I was a little disappointed at the way we were told the layoffs were happening. Lay off anybody who's probationary. Let's just start. And people were worried, are they going to have a job? Are they not going to have a job? I like the idea of people being offered a severance package if they wanted to leave. That happens in the private industry all the time. Look, we're going to be doing layoffs. If you want, we will offer packages for people who want to leave voluntarily. And that has happened in private industry for decades. And it did a variety of things. One is it allowed individuals who were going to retire to leave on a high note. They were going to retire anyway. They get some extra money, some extra padding. They don't have the layoff. They have, I resigned on their resume instead of being cut. And they also preserved a job for somebody else. So if you were older, thinking about retiring in the next year or two, and you saw your younger coworkers nervous, you could say, look, I know you need to do X number of layoffs, so you're asking for volunteers. You're going to give us a severance package, just like on a plane When they say, look, we need somebody to give up their seat, we're going to give you a free ticket. It's a really good deal. If you're not in a hurry to give up your seat, it's a really good deal. That's hundreds of dollars. They're paying you to give up your seat. Me, though, I'm always in a hurry. I always, have to get back to work, get on air, so I can't take those deals. But that's completely legal to offer those deals. So when Trump did that, that was fine. What I didn't like is if people didn't take that deal and it sounded like it was only for people who were working remotely, then the idea that, okay, well, on February 7th or 8th after the deadline, we might can you anyway. And what I didn't like about what happened with that, and I'll say it, look, I might like a lot of things Trump's doing, but I'll also call it when I don't. And what I think was a bad move is individuals who were working on site who said, look, I'm loyal. I'm not working remote. I love my job. I want to still be a part of this government and this administration. So I am not taking your deal, to get, free pay with no work until September. I'm already working on site. No, thank you. I'm here. Those guys got the shaft when they got laid off a few days later, and they could have taken the deal. And these were people that were so that means those who were working remote got a better deal if they said they didn't want to work remote. That just wasn't fair. And so I disliked that. And some of the layoffs have slowed down in some of the departments, but not for others. And Trump has said from the beginning of his campaign he was going to be dismantling the Department of Education. If they aren't doing their job and people are not getting, if they are not getting, the education they need, the reason why the Department of Education existed is it was brought about by Jimmy Carter, and many people think it was a thank you to the teachers' unions. But in essence, the reason why the Department of Education exists is to make sure no child is left behind. Make sure all children get access to learning. They get access to remediation. And that it doesn't matter what city or state you're in, you have the resources to make sure that every kid within every part of our country to get good education. Well, that hasn't been happening. They're not doing their job. If they're not doing their job, why are we paying them? Now, I'm still not convinced that the local school districts are doing their job. I love states being involved. I love states' rights. I love less federal and more states because they know more about what their constituents need. There's a lot of, like I was told that I live in Las Vegas, Nevada, and how Clark County School District, this was about 10 years ago, where the majority of students are Latino, and we have a lot of individuals who might not be English speaking. So in our district, we are going to need a lot more resources for English as a second language than in other school districts. Right? And yeah, maybe the Department of Education can handle that, but I don't know if they are. The big problem we had is parents did not like the trustees. They did not like the school boards, and we saw them be very frustrated. And so as long as the school boards and the trustees and the states and the governors could ensure that parents are getting what they need, I'll support this move. 1-877-Daliah.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.